Hi, my name is Jared Calvert. I'm the Forest Silviculturist for the Daniel Boone National Forest, and I'm here today just to talk about some of the work we do. We manage approximately 708,000 acres of national forest land in Kentucky, and that's inside our proclamation boundary of approximately 2.1 million acres. So we manage the forest primarily for habitat diversity, and we do a variety of treatments to improve habitat for different various species. And you know, we're going to see a lot of things today that are just different types of treatments that could benefit the forest and also benefit the various species assemblages across the national forest and the Daniel Boone as a whole. So yeah, today we're actually standing out here in the Cold Hill Phase 2 project area. So in the stand we're in now, there was actually a recent harvest, and within the Cold Hill project we have had a variety of collaborators, including the Southern Research Station, the University of Kentucky, and other special interest groups. And we've tried to create a variety of habitat conditions. One of the main things we try to do is actually improve the vigor of the stand. You know, that's through commercial thinning, or through a timber harvest, or through prescribed fire. And another thing that we're working on is to reduce the vulnerability and susceptibility of oak to gypsy moth and oak decline. We're actually in today is it received the oak shelterwood prescription, and you know, part of that prescription was to basically regenerate the stand. So when we talk about regeneration, you know, we're actually regenerating the stand from an older mature stand to a younger stand. And one of the reasons we do that is on the Daniel Boone National Forest we are actually lacking in young forest, or early sterile habitat. We have approximately 708,000 acres of land to manage, as I mentioned. So on the Daniel Boone as a whole, our young forest component of habitat is lacking. So we have nearly, you know, around less than 1% across the whole forest. So the majority of our forest is a closed canopy forest. So, you know, managing on private land or national forest, we run into a lot of the same issues. Currently right now we have a mid-story in many of those stands that consist of a lot of red maple. And red maple has started to become a problem here in Kentucky. Around the 1940s, red maple really expanded, and you know, that was after a lot of the disturbance regimes had ended. Like, we started our fire suppression program, and so we quit burning the land, you know, and things like that, which, you know, was good in a way. But you know, right now, you know, it's allowing a lot of these mesophytic species to come in. So some of the treatments, like in this stand for example, we actually treated the red maple before the timber harvest, and that allowed us to reduce the density of the red maple and give more growing room and space for desirable species such as white oak. Here as I'm standing against this chestnut oak tree, this is actually a leaf tree in our stand, and the reason why we leave some of these larger diameter trees is that they are preferable not only for wildlife, but also because they're a longer lived species. The white oak is definitely a longer lived species. It can live longer than the red oak species group. You know, we're not only trying to reestablish some of the more natural disturbances that occurred in the past, like, you know, the creation of young forest. You know, we're also, when we do any of those types of treatments, we have to take in consideration the regeneration. So whenever we open up the canopy, whether that's on private land or national forest, we have to take a serious consideration of the regeneration that's in place. So we have to manipulate the species composition through additional treatments before we do a timber harvest. This is an example of what we've been talking about with our oak decline. You know, as I mentioned, we have a closed canopy forest here on the Daniel Boone for the most part, except for some management we're doing in some areas. But what we're seeing in this closed canopy older mature forest is oak decline. And so here we have a scarlet oak, as you can see, and this scarlet oak has suffered from stem failure and root failure from root rot, and also from the stem actually having rot inside of it. So what that leads to is the creation of canopy gaps. So as this tree, falls in the woods, then we have a canopy gap created, and it allows for species that are underneath these mature oak trees to be recruited into the canopy because of the canopy gap actually introducing light into the understory. So here you can see this red maple. This is an example. There's a whole sea of red maple in this canopy gap that's actually started to be recruited. Red maple is a shade tolerant species, so it can survive in lower light levels underneath these mature older canopy forest. So what we're looking at doing is actually doing additional treatments prior to harvest of stands that are more susceptible to oak decline, that have a higher component of red oak. So in these stands, we design treatments where we go in before our actual treatment and we treat the red maple with a herbicide generally, and that's either through different techniques like hack and squirt or a cut stump application. And that allows us to reduce the density of red maple and make room for other desirable species such as oak. We have a mature closed canopy forest, and we have the scarlet oak that's fallen down. And a big thing to see here is not only did the scarlet oak fall down, which allowed increased light for shade intolerant species to be recruited in the understory from the understory like red maple, but it also took down other trees in its path. We can see over there a valuable white oak tree that is about 14 to 16 inches diameter, and that was also taken out by the scarlet oak. So the root rot and the different diseases like hypoxylon, canker, armillaria rot, all those come together to affect our oaks, and they especially affect our red oak species group. It's really important for us to consider the types of treatments we're doing here, not only on the Daniel Boone National Forest, but also on private land, so that we can come up with a game plan to be able to write a solid prescription to reduce the amount of red maple in the understory before we do any type of treatment that's going to open up the canopy. We've seen all these treatments today, and it's been great to be out in the woods, but I think one of the big take-home points here is we want to get landowners out here. If we can get landowners involved with a collaboration on the projects that we're doing now, we can not only come together to be able to manage the land together on the land that landowners truly own. It's the Daniel Boone National Forest, it's their forest. So be able to get them out here, to be able to show them some of the techniques and tools that we are learning through this research. I think it's incredibly important just to find a way to get more people involved, and to be able to bring this back to private landowners, to bring this back to their land, and to be able to make a big impact across a large landscape scale. I started out, I used to go rock climbing and camping in the forest when I was as a youth, and it was just a really awesome thing to be able to do that. I really had a great appreciation for the forest then. And then as I went into college, I went into the field of forestry, and I started to learn my tree species and started to learn some of the issues we're facing ecologically with the forest. It really opened up my eyes, as what potential that we have across this region. So now today I work for the Forest Service and the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and it's just really special to be able to be a part of making an impact across such a large landscape. So that's my hope, to be able to make some kind of impact.